but we good to start. I'd like to welcome everyone to the first She Wellness conversation, obviously brought to you by Avenir Media House. Lo opam kwenungu Sinaye Jonas. I'm actually excited to see the faces that I'm seeing here. It's familiar faces. So yeah, this was a good exercise for me to come back home. I'm also excited about the fact that I'm seeing the different age group of women that's here, so it's going to be quite an interesting conversation. But yeah, I'm excited. Everyone is looking beautiful in their pastel colors. Do you check it? So yeah, I just want people to relax and because like I said, this is not some type of seminar where we are here to just listen. It's an interactive, hence why we're saying that it's a conversation, because it's interactive. Everyone is here to express how they feel. We're here to get educated, we're here to learn, and it's all about us women. And then just a few house rules. I've been a house rules from the MC. So the first house rule, the common house rule that we all know, cell phones, please silence or turn them off. And then my other house rule is that we're gonna have our question and answer sessions in between the speakers. Like I said, we are here to interact and have a collective conversation. And then also, because COVID, betunana is corner, I would like us to observe COVID regs or rules. And we've got doctors here, and I can see they're not happy about the situation. So I would kindly request that we've already maintained social distancing. We did the whole checking of heat temperatures and sanitizing, but in ndiyacela sifakeni i-mask. Umuntu onolungelo longanxibi i-mask apha ndim. So to get us started, it wouldn't be enough bana sithi xa siqala le session siqale without umthandazo. So I'm going to ask umama uNombuyiselo Mqele azosivulela ngomthandazo.
Mandibulele program director, ndibulise kumntu wonke olapha endlini ngegama lenkosi yami Yesu Kristu, amen. Andiyazi wethu le lockdown isenza silibale nobulisa ngeli gama, silibale njengoba ndibhidekile ngoba ndizathi ngibulisa ngantoni kanene. Bendiceliwe ke bethunana not to have any scripture reading, kuthiwe mandenze nje a short prayer, ndiza kwenza ngolo hlobo. But with due respect, ndirhalela nje ukushare ivesi ibenye anduzukuyicacisa from the book of Proverbs. Ithi ikhe indibetheke i-technology, but ithi if a woman sets her mind on something, she will get it done no matter what. Ndiphelele apho. Masithandaze sigobeni nje inhloko. Enkosi moya oyingcwele, enkosi Thixo wethu, enkosi mzali ngokusivusa kwindawo ngendawo ebesilele kuzo. Wahamba nathi Thixo wethu, wavuma mzali sazongena kule venue moya oyingcwele. Sisuka kwindawo ngendawo, ezinye zikude Thixo wethu, ezinye zikufutshane. Kodwa ke Thixo wethu siyayazi ukubana anything could have happened apha endleleni, but because wena usifakile phansi kwephiko lakho sizofika sonke sisafe singavanga nto. Enkosi moya oyingcwele, nantsi ke le event Thixo wethu iplaniwe ngabantwana bakho. Yes, we know that wena wayiplana kwasesidaleni, kodwa Thixo wethu wayibeka i-idea emntwaneni wakho omnye. Uthe uyibeka wabe somlungiselele wena indlela, wabe somlungiselele iteam azawusebenza nayo. We thank you Lord for that. Siphakamisa izandla zozibini Thixo wethu kuwe, because wena nguThixo ongaguquguqukiyo, awutshintshi moya oyingcwele. Sinamathele kuwe ngezo zizathu Thixo wethu. We invite your Holy Spirit to guide us. Ungasishina ngomzuzu omnye Thixo wethu kule event. moya ingcwele. Kukho abantwana bakho ke mzali abaza kwenza presentations okanye abazawusharisha information kunye nathi Thixo dume ngokulunga. Ngabantwana bakho ke moya ingcwele. Ngabantwana bakho abadicide okokubana isibane obanike sona bangasibeki phansi kwetafile Thixo wethu, kodwa basibeke phezu kwetafile ukuze sikhanyisele wonke umuntu okhoyo udalo wezulu nomhlaba. Uzusincede ke sithi xa siphuma apha singaneli nje ukuncoma i-presentations moya ingcwele, sincome i-event Thixo wethu, kodwa senze utshintsho ezimpilweni zethu moya ingcwele. Senze utshintsho kubantu abakufutshane nathi, senze utshintsho kwii-communities zethu at large moya ingcwele. Unako ke wena ukuzenza ezo zinto Thixo wethu odume ngokulunga, ngoba wena awuxakwanto. Sithembe wena ke mzali, program director Thixo wethu, uzawudirectwa nguwe yena Thixo dume ngokulunga, because without your involvement we cannot see any success Thixo olungileyo out of this event. Sithembe wena ke ezintweni zonke, hamba nathi yophuma nathi egqibeleni ngoYesu Kristu inkosi yethu, amen.
Siyabulela kakhulu mama. Yeah, as I said that today we're all here to talk about everything that's about women's health, and we've got professionals in the field to talk about what's happening with women's health. But because we are having a conversation, Nati, I believe we like thinking that we're experts because we are women. So I need those questions or the things that you've been asking yourself about women's health to bring it back to the professionals who will be able to answer you when it comes to those things. And I know it's a bit soon to say thank you, but I honestly want to thank what commonly would land a woman on a surgical table. So, but before she starts, I'm gonna start with Tina Apa. That I'm sure by you coming here, there's an expectation, there's something that you're expecting to learn or expecting to know out of this session. So I want 2 or 3 hands, abantu who are going to get up. It's not you're not going to ask questions, but by you buying this ticket and by you being here on a Sunday, what are you expecting out of this whole conversation? And I'm hoping that my doctors will take note and that during their presentation, they will speak on those things that you erased, or the things that you guys are expecting. So I just need 2 to 3 hands. You know what? I want to walk away from here and difunde ngento ethize when it comes to health related to my body. Hands. Ningosabi, guys. Like, it's a conversation. It's a conversation. We're here to talk. We're here to talk. Let's not be shy. Because I know that we're having these conversations. Like I say, on Facebook. You guys are having these discussions on Facebook. You're making comments. You're giving suggestions. So I feel that let's bring those things to the table and get the professionals to give us direction or guidance when it comes to the things. So I've got 1 hand here, and I need 2 more. There's a second hand there, and then the last hand. Come, guys. Okay, there's a third hand over there. Okay, we'll start here. Just introduce yourself and then tell us what you are expecting out of the session.
Thank you. Yolanda. I'm Mrs. Yolanda Jama, and I came across a post on Facebook. Ibithetha sanitary wear, and it said that there was a person who was using tampons, and this person almost died. And Abantu had a lot to share about that. The city pads are a safer option. I would really, really like to know about is it true about cause infection now as tampons, because it's my preferred type of sanitary wear, and because of complications and banners when I use pads and stuff like that. So all the myths around la topic. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next hand over here.
Thank you so much. My name is Tuma Hlengane. Ndibizwa Mrs. H. When Uncesh invited me to this, bendingayazi, so waisherisha Uncesh we look ahead when about a woman's health. I was like, I'm so interested because personally I'm in a journey. I wrote a book on journey to conception. Most women struggle with conception, So now I wrote a book on that, but with very little information. It's just my personal story. So now, xa kukhona into enje, I thought maybe somewhere, somehow, ndingafumana more information and to even share and also for my benefit. Thank you.
Siyabulela, Mrs. H.
Thank you very much. Igama lami Asisipho Makhalima. Now I came here because a friend of mine, which is next to me, invited me. I didn't know. Now what I would love Uamba Apa knowing is the fact that since some of us get married young, and we've got a problem in conceiving, and it's mostly said that it's because he felt equal as women, and sometimes it's not really. Maybe our fault, I don't know. Also our partners as well, because for you to conceive, it's a party yamanda by two. So what advices can we get on conceiving safe without having to blame ourselves that, okay, I'm a barren woman without knowing anything about it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think my last addition, Jegu, things that I'm expecting out of the session. Another thing that I pick up with us women is that before we start asking questions, pain or before we start questioning what is happening with our bodies. And I feel that it's so important that from this conversation, personally, I want to know from the doctors when is the right time? How often should we see doctors? We don't have to wait. I feel that we don't have to wait until something goes wrong for us to, go visit your doctor. So that's one of the things that I'm hoping to get out of the session. So without any further ado, I'd like to invite Dr. Zulu to do her presentation, and then we'll take questions after. Thanks.
Sanbonani. Hello. Besebeng introducile ubabongile Zulu all the way from KZN, but I've been in Queenstown for almost 3 years, and I must say I'm enjoying it a lot. I've been embraced by the people of this side, and I really appreciate it. I would also like to thank the organizers of this very important event, very important conversation to have about women health issues, and also to thank Dr. Simama for inviting me to be part of this very important event. I'm going to be talking to you about breast cancer. Breast cancer is a very important topic to tackle because it's one of the commonest cancers that happen in females. I'll try and be non-academic as possible, and I would also like, as we've been instructed, you will also participate in this, in the conversation. First of all, let me define breast cancer for all of you. Breast cancer is a malignant tumor that develops from the tissues that form the breast. What do we mean by malignant? We get different type of tumors or masses in layman's terms. A benign tumor or a tumor that is not dangerous is a tumor that grows in the tissue of origin and it stays there. It doesn't destroy. And a malignant tumor, which is the other synonym is cancer, it destroys the tissue of origin, and it doesn't end there. It has the capacity to metastasize. By metastasis, I mean it spreads to other tissues that are not tissues of origin. They have the capacity to spread to bone, capacity to spread to the lungs, capacity to spread to liver, capacity to spread to the brain, capacity to spread to the spine, and then you find women with breast cancer paralyzed. Basically, they can spread anywhere. So those are called malignant tumors. the dangerous type of tumor. Breast cancer is one of the mostly diagnosed cancers in women. It's one of the top 5. The other cancers that form part of the top 5 are uterine cancer, colorectal cancer, breast cancer, and the others, they've just skipped my mind. I will remember them, but I know that breast cancer is one of the big 5. Interestingly, a lot of people think that this is a cancer that only affects ladies. It can also affect females. So please listen on behalf of your boyfriends and husbands as well. Let's just look at the breast. Unfortunately, I don't have a marker, but I'll try and simplify it for you as much as possible. But before that, can I get an indication from you, what is the function of the breast? Please don't give me funny answers. Okay. What is the function of the breast?
Any takers? Try your luck.
Asana Ligilil, I will have to give you a very obvious answer. We know it for breastfeeding.
Yes, it's the only answer, ladies. And the only babies that we breastfeed are real babies. Okay, so the breast is for breastfeeding. There are other functions, but today we'll talk about it was made for that and nothing else. Okay, so the breast is fat and supporting. That's what gives your breast the structure. So it's 3 parts. It's connective tissues, it's lobules, and then it's ducts. So cancer can emanate from any of those structures. It can come from the connective tissue, it can come from the lobules, it can come from the ducts. But I must point out that the commonest type of breast cancer that we see comes from the ducts, and we call it a duct cancer. It comes from the lining of the roadwork. So that's the commonest cancer that we see. So that's the anatomy of your breast in a nutshell. So there are changes that take place as we get older. Younger women in the reproductive age group, they have mostly lobules and ducts, so their breasts are dense. And then the older women, because of the process of involution, you get less ducts and less lobules, and then there's more connective tissue in older women. So there are changes that happen as we grow older. That's why you find that older women's breasts are affected more by gravity. They droop. Okay. So that's the anatomy of the breast in a nutshell. I think it's important to know the facts about breast cancer, and unfortunately they are quite alarming. It's the most commonly diagnosed cancer in women. 1 out of 10 women has breast cancer worldwide. On average, every 2 minutes, a woman is diagnosed with breast cancer. That's quite alarming. 1 woman will die of breast cancer every 13 minutes. And death rates are declining with early detection and early awareness. That's the most important point at the end. Death rates are declining with early detection and early awareness. We are going to speak about that. Then coming back to our country, South Africa, breast cancer again is the most common cancer in women of all races. Black people have this tendency when we talk about diseases of thinking that somehow we're immune. The same thing happened to COVID when it first started. Black people were saying it doesn't affect black people. The same thing happened to HIV. They were calling it a strategy by the West to destroy Africans, etc. So I think you have to understand that this cancer affects all races. The incidence in South Africa is out of every 100,000 women, 27 have breast cancer. I think that is quite high. And we can also speak it in terms of 1 in 25 lifetime risk. So if you take about 25 people in this room, one person out of those will have a breast cancer in their half-life. How many people are here? About 50. So two of you will have breast cancer. So you can see how common it is. Yeah. Okay. It accounts for 16% of cancer deaths amongst women. Of note is that the incidence in black women is on the rise. We are seeing a lot more black women. I remember when I was training in the 90s, we didn't see a lot of breast cancer amongst black ladies, but we are definitely seeing more ladies with breast cancer, black women. And interestingly, amongst black females, they happen to be relatively younger at presentation compared to our white and Asian counterparts. They present at least a decade younger. So most black women are younger when they present with breast cancer compared to other races, right? And the other thing that we've also noted with black women is that they present late with advanced disease. This is multifactorial. Our people tend to seek or look for help elsewhere before they present. We are also stoic as people. Our pain threshold is higher, and we tend to be tolerant of symptoms more than the other races. So that's the other thing that accounts for late presentation. And then issues like poverty, of course, no money to come to the hospital, no money for transport. So these are basically the things that cause us to present late. But more worryingly, breast cancer is an umbrella term. It's like, I'll use the analogy of having a car, for instance. If I have a car, we have different types of cars. There are BMWs, there are Audis, there are Rolls Royces, there are Bugattis. Those are big guns, the premium, we call them the premium cars, right? And then you have the smaller cars like your Goes, your Etios. So the same thing applies to breast cancer. We may have a diagnosis of breast cancer, but it doesn't mean that we have the same breast cancer, the same type of breast cancer. Some people have Rolls Royces of breast cancer or Bugattis. That in breast cancer terms, it means that's an aggressive cancer that grows fast. And some people have your Tatas, your Etioses, slow. I hope nobody drives that car here. I don't mean it. Okay, those are slow, indolent, cancers that are not very aggressive. So even though you have a diagnosis of breast cancer, it does not mean that you have the same cancer. The biology is different. So it's been noted that for some reason, black women, the younger ones, they develop Rolls Royces of cancers, the aggressive ones, yeah. We call them the triple negative cancers. Those are quite aggressive and they kill very fast. So just note that as well, right? Now, risk factors. Risk factors are basically what makes one susceptible to developing a disease. it's different variables associated with an increased risk of disease. In breast cancer terms, or in any disease for that matter, we divide risk factors into non-modifiable. Those are factors that you as a person, you can't do anything about. You cannot control them, in other words. And then we have modifiable risk factors. And I think these are the ones that we have to concentrate on, because we can do something about those, yeah. In about 50% of breast cancer cases, there's usually sort of an identifiable risk factor. We sort of see, okay, this lady has risk factors, right? And it's usually multiple risk factors, not just one, right? So knowing the risk factors, it permits us to identify those at risk and also to intervene or modify the risks if we know what they are. The non-modifiable, those that we can't do anything about, are things like age. You can't do anything about your age. If you're 40, you're 40. You can use all the anti-aging things in the world, but it doesn't stop the process of aging. You age anyway. Aging is a privilege afforded to a few. We all know that. But there's debt to be paid. You live long to see your kids growing up, going to school, to university, and even your grandkids. But there's debt to pay. Your body pays for that privilege, right? So a lot of breast cancer is associated with an increase in age. It's older women that have cancer compared to younger women. Also, simply being a woman predisposes you to cancer. It's 100 times more common to have breast cancer as a woman than a man. So by virtue of you being a woman, nothing that you can do anything about, you are prone to having breast cancer. Genes, there are people that come from families that are genetically predisposed to having cancer. You inherit these genes from your parents. There's nothing you can do about it. You have a gene. You cannot change that. Okay. The same applies to family history as well. Some families just have a history of cancers, and then you happen to have it as well. And then people that have had breast cancer in the past, one breast, there's a higher risk of having it in the other one as well. Still on non-modifiable breast cancer, dense breast tissue or women with dense bone have a higher incidence of breast cancer than the ones that have less. Certain races and ethnicities are prone to breast cancer. The Ashkenazi Jews are known to have a higher incidence of breast cancer than the other races. The whites have definitely more than us. And the Asians and Hispanics have less than Africans. So your race also determines your risk of having breast cancer. Also, some benign breast conditions can predispose you to breast cancer. The examples are duct hyperplasia. There's also another condition called sclerosing adenosis and papillomatosis. They are benign. They are not like cancer. They cannot spread to other areas, but they predispose you to breast cancer. If you have an increased estrogen window, women that have their menarche or first menstruation early and they menopause late, so they have a long estrogen window, they are prone to breast cancer than ladies that have a short estrogen window. And people that have had irradiation to chest are also prone to breast cancer. An example is ladies with lymphomas. Lymphoma is another type of cancer. And then you get mental field irradiation through your chest. and then that predisposes you to breast cancer as well. I had a cousin who had lymphoma at 26. She had all the therapy, including the radiotherapy to the chest, but she developed breast cancer about 10 years later and died from breast cancer and not from the lymphoma. So if you've had treatment for another cancer, especially radiation through your chest, you are prone to getting breast cancer. I don't know if I can take questions at the moment. Are there any questions at the moment? Yes, Chanti. Mhm.
The exact, like, what is the actual age? What is defined as early menstruation?
All right, so the normal process or the normal time to start your menses is age 9 to age 15, normal. So 9 to 15, so that's normal. And then your menopause age is 45 to 55. But if a child, so it was determined early as before the age of 10 years, so between 9 and 10, that's early. It's normal, but early, okay? And late is after age of 52 years, so 52 to 55, it's normal, but it's late, okay? Less than 9 years, that's precocious puberty, so that's not normal, we need to investigate it. And if you still have your menstruation above 55, that's also not normal, that we need to investigate.
Thank you. I see those words, but can you just give us a brief explanation of that hyperplasia?
Okay. You remember I talked about the lining of the ducts, right? That's where cancer commonly happens in the breast. So if you have more of those lining cells, so that means more cells that have the potential to develop cancer. Sclerosing adenosis is calcifications, like calcium deposits that happen in the breast, in the ducts, and especially. So that also predisposes you to getting breast cancer. And papillomatosis basically is a graduation from hyperplasia. Hyperplasia, then it eventually forms what we call papillomas, like small growths inside the duct, the root. Yeah. So those are all the benign conditions. They are benign, they are not cancerous, but they predispose you to having breast cancer. We will come to that, Dr. Mageda. Yeah, I'm coming to that one, Sisi. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's proceed then. Now we're coming to the most, the important, I think this, because we can sort of modify these risk factors, right? Nulliparity. Nulliparity basically means no children. Okay, so ladies that are nulliparous, but I know in a way it can be non-modifiable, but other women do it out of choice. They just decide not to have children. So it's very important when it comes to breast cancer. So basically it means detecting the disease before it becomes symptomatic, right? So there are protocols for screening when it comes to breast cancer. And these are the screening modalities that we have at our disposal. One of them, which is very important, is self-breast examination. You have to familiarize yourself with your breast. You have to know it in and out. Get your partner to do it with you. He must also know it in and out. How it feels like, if there are any changes. You have to know your breast, right? So that self-breast examination, I'll come to it later on. And then there's something that we call clinical breast examination, where you walk into the doctor's room